Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii on Steam Deck, so this game is verified and now there's a demo available. The game releases in around 6 days, so February 20th, but I was surprised to see that it was verified already. So we're going to test that claim right now. By just going to the game page, you're going to find the button to download the demo. The demo is actually smaller in size than I expected, so installed is only 18 gigabytes, so this is for the demo. The main game is probably much larger than this, so let's get into it right away. Alright, so by default the game is at 800p. We can lower it to 1152 by 720, which is good to see, but we're going to try the default settings first. The medium preset with a 6 FPS cap, then detailed graphic settings, 4 times anisotropic filtering, medium shadows, medium geometry, reflections yes, medium, motion blur off, thank you, SSAO on, depth of field, great for cutscenes. Then when it comes to performance improvement settings, we got upscaling on FSR2 on quality by default, frame gen disabled and low latency mode disabled as well. So I'm happy that by default they don't enable frame generation, that's a good sign. There's also FSR 3.1.2, XeSS, and I think that's it. Oh, and there's FSR 1 as well. Let's keep it on FSR 3.1.2. It probably looks better than FSR 2, and we're keeping it on quality. So default settings, the only change is the FSR version, so it looks better. Okay, so we're now into the game with FSR 3.1 is the only change on quality. But again, we're using the default settings, which is medium settings. See? Okay, so far so good, but we're on the beach, so there's not a lot to render. And again, this is the demo. The demo is probably going to be running the same as the full game. Because again, the game is coming out next week. So yeah. Considering this a more action-focused game, I'll probably target 40s if possible, or 45. Yeah, I mean, when effects show up, it likes to drop into the 40s, at least in the beach, but I think there's some improvements that we can do, especially by lowering the shadow quality. But the default settings are looking good, actually. GG. This is what a verified game should look like when you launch it. No tinkering needed. I only changed the version of FSR that we're using. Okay, so we're now Pirate Majima, and if you never played a Yakuza game, I highly recommend you do. I have a video playing all of them on the Steam Deck. I think it was made before Infinite Wealth came out. Which again, Infinite Wealth runs pretty well, similar to this, because same engine. And now the heat action. But again, with quality FSR, we're getting 40s with some drops into the 30s with a good amount of effects on screen. Okay, we're now outside of combat, running around. It feels a little bit jittery, but yeah, we're CPU bound actually. Look at that CPU usage. And here we're not fighting at the moment, but yeah, definitely. If you want a 30 FPS experience, you can do it just fine, although FSR looks a little bit too chunky. But again, this is the default settings and it's the demo. Again, the full game is probably going to run the same as this. I'm not expecting big changes in 7 days, let's be honest here. So yeah, city runs a bit worse on the beach, obviously, especially on the CPU side. Let's do very quick combat. Yeah, classic Dragon Engine Yakuza combat. I love that it's real-time combat. Thank God they went back that route. It works so well. Alright, so when it comes to settings, I would personally recommend 800p is fine. Then in detailed graphics, 4 times texture filtering. I lowered the shadows to low. I think that's a neat performance improvement when it comes to GPU. The geometry, we should actually lower it, but I'll keep it on medium since I'm not targeting the 60s, more of the 40s. Real-time reflections on, reflection quality on medium, no motion blur, personal preference, and depth of field for cutscenes. Then when it comes to performance improvement settings, I checked FSR2 and 3.1.2. 3.1.2 seems to look a little bit better. And I also tried XeSS, and man, it's a soft mess, at least at this resolution. So my advice is to use this and lower the sharpness. Frame generation, we're going to try it in a moment, but personally I'm not a fan of that. Low latency doesn't allow us to change it, so probably not supported on this one. Okay, now we're back here on the smaller screen, which with the upscaler with low sharpness, it actually looks pretty good on the smaller screen. It doesn't look as chunky, obviously, because it's not blown out on a 27-inch screen on the capture card. So running around like this with unlocked frame rates, at least here, yeah, the CPU is what suffers the most so far. But lowering the shadows seemed to have done the trick. Seems to have done the trick. So let's try a 45 FPS cap. If you're on the Steam Deck LCD, I recommend you try 40s instead. But you can also target 45. So now we're at 45 FPS lock. First impressions are good. Again, this is more of our first impressions video because this is a demo. I want to play the entire game once it releases. And we start with combat actually. We get a drop there. And it stabilizes rather quickly actually. Let's be Pirate Majima. I wasn't ever expecting this game to actually happen at some point. It caught me off guard. I was like, okay, we're getting finally the sequel to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, what Skull and Bones should have been. So in combat, at least on the beach, which is not saying much, 45 seems to be good enough. The thing is, when you're running around, there are stutters, CPU related, it seems. Probably we should lower geometry, but I'm going to try that once the full game is out. Just to have more places where I can test stuff. So GG. Performance so far seems pretty good. We're not even using frame gen. Okay, apparently the naval combat, I skipped some cutscenes and it didn't happen. But what a what a weird pirate city. This looks pretty damn good. Way more demanding than Hawaii, obviously. More NPCs, more effects on screen. Let's skip ahead. Pirates. We shoot them. Ah, that's good. Okay. Performance in combat seems to be good enough. In Hawaii or in the pirate city, seems to be good. And we can shoot them. Not sure why I cannot hit him in the ground though. Pro pirates versus grey pirates. No freaking way. Ship combat in the middle of the city. Okay. Ah, finally. It took them a few years, but here we go. Thin ship with a machine gun and cannons and nitros as well. GG. And then, oh, while it moves around, you can actually get off the wheel. Alright, so I got an RPG in my pocket actually. Let's aim it to the enemy. So random. Okay, and now we can get back control of the ship. I got you. Yeah, so far it's working pretty damn well. Landing on the other ship. Impossible on a quadruple A game like Skull and Bones. And when that happens, okay, we get spawned into the other ship and we just fight all those enemies. Pretty straightforward, I would say. And we have the Yakuza style combat, obviously, that the series is known for. And when it comes to the engine, it's the same engine as Infinite Wealth, the Dragon engine. But when it comes to performance, it's fine. I just lowered the shadows and I locked it to 45. Now, as many of you guys request, we're going to unlock the frame rates and enable frame generation. So FSR3 frame gen. Also, we're putting this with the manual GPU clock at 1600. Again, like you guys tell me in the comments. Okay, so now we have frame generation. The CPU usage is still pretty high. There is artifacts when it comes to the UI, especially those talking bubbles. But you're getting 50s instead of 40s. You do the math. There's input lag as well, but it's not as bad as in other games because the base frame rate is much bigger, is much higher, better said, than in other games that we use FrameGen on. As an example, if you have a base of 20 FPS, FrameGen is going to feel horrible. If your base is 40 something, well, you get results similar to this. Which again, I can still feel the input lag and see the UI bugs, especially there when NPCs are talking and I'm running around. When it comes to the CPU limitation, the CPU limitation is still there. Which again, I think in this case you can just not enable frame generation and be fine with it. Still, the mid-40s in my opinion is completely fine, especially on a smaller screen like this one. And quality FSR, I think it looks good enough. Just avoid XeSS. What do I think about Like a Dragon, Yakuza Pirate in Hawaii? Yeah, what a long name. On Steam Deck, well, I think the verification is well earned. It runs well, very similar to Infinite Wealth, I would say, and the man who raised his name. There is a good amount of options. By default, it has medium shadows and quality FSR2. The only changes I'm recommending right now, especially for the mid-40s, is just to lower the shadows to low and change to FSR 3.1.0 instead of just FSR 2. When it comes to CPU usage, clearly there's a CPU limitation, especially when running around Hawaii and this city, and when you're fighting on a ship, and in the ship you're standing instead of using the ship to fight. There's more geometry there, but otherwise, mostly solid 45. The thing is, again, main thing is when traversing, which you'll notice also with FrameGen on. So yeah, first impressions are great. Cannot wait for this game, the full game, to release next week. So we're 7 days away. Anybody can download this demo, so go to the Steam page and you'll find it. And your save carries over to the full game, I think. Anyway guys, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys!